is the man with history on his mind. Marcos Ambrose is gunning for 4 straight championship wins and possibly a place alongside the great Alan Moffat as the only 4 drivers to do it. Well, we've come a long way to find out if he can. Hidden Valley in Darwin, and they're about to turn it on here in the top end.
It's a long road to the top, but the Outback could be the road to payback. Ford is firing, but Holden's had enough. Now it's getting personal, and we all know what happens when 2 tribes go to war. The V8 Supercar Championship is in the top end. Round 6 on your home of motorsport, Network 10.
Crisscrossed the continent to the tune of thousands of kilometres to bring us to Hidden Valley, a venue that first appeared on the V8 Supercar calendar in 1998. It's hosting its 6th touring car round this weekend. Now, we've got 2 races for you today, 100 kilometres for each event. And around here, that's 35 laps. The pit window is between laps 2 and 24. There is only 1 compulsory stop for tyres. The forecast for today, typically Darwin, hot, a maximum of 34 degrees. You can add around 15 for the track temperature and plus 20 or more for the cabin temperature. Good afternoon. Welcome to Network 10's coverage of the V8 Supercar Championship. I'm Matthew White alongside Neil Crompton. Now, Neil, we know that the heat here is going to be very intense. The racing, probably intense as well.
You're absolutely right about that. We always talk about the heat up here, but I think the fascinating aspect of this weekend's race meeting is the battle between Marcos Ambrose and Mark Skaife. Friday practice, Saturday morning practice, and qualifying initially belonged to Ambrose, but then the shootout and the first race, it's all Skaife territory. The incredible thing is the extraordinary tiny margin between these blokes. I mean, we're literally measuring the difference between them in terms of hundreds and thousands and not in terms of tenths. It's a very intense battle, and that's going to continue today.
All right, let's take a look at this circuit. It normally throws up something special, 2.9 kilometres around here. Let's get close on Hidden Valley.
And we're situated 5 kilometres south of Darwin Airport, 2.9 kilometres this little racetrack, and the drivers really love it. They love coming to the top end. Today's races are going to be 27 laps. It's 10 corners. Jason Wright
in the hot seat with Richo. Now, let's bring you up to speed on the events here so far. Mark Skaife playing pole position, his 2nd of the season, his 2nd pole here, the 30th of his career. A check for $5 grand from Munro and a peck on the cheek as well. But remember this, nobody has ever won the overall round in Darwin after starting from position number 1. But Skaife is certainly on the way after race 1, and from the get-go, controversy yesterday. Russell Ingall speared off in a tangle that once again put Greg Murphy in the frame. Now, from the available angles that we have, it's hard to tell exactly what happened or who hit who, but you can see the resulting mess. And the net result was a badly bruised BA Falcon for Ingall and the end of race 1 for the Enforcer. This is the view from inside the cockpit of Greg Murphy's car. Up on the left comes car number 9. Big, bad, messy stuff. We'll have more on this shortly when we get into pit lane and find out what all the wash-up was, but you can see what the result was for Russell Ingall. Down to turn 1, drama all day. Paul Morris involved in a little pirouette, so too was Paul Dumbrell, and Cameron McConville forced to take evasive action. Craig Lowndes had some troubles throughout the day. He had problems at the rear left as Morris tried to rejoin the race there. Look at Lowndes' car number 6, Cat Ford. He qualified 7th, finished race 1 28th. Mark Larkham had one of those days. This is his 95th championship start. He finished race 1 26th, and that wasn't the only time he went off into the dirt. Look at turn 1. This was the scene of all the drama. Bernard versus Baird. Sorry, folks, gaps closed. Cameron McConville, again, has to go out wide to get around the mess. It was a pretty bad day all round for Ford Performance Racing. I already mentioned the bad day for Mark Larkham. What about Glenn Seaton? Broke a water pump belt, forced to retire. No more action for Glenn Seaton. At the end of all that, it was a 17-lap dash, And from start to finish, this man did the job once again. Mark Skate, the 6th time he's won a race here at this circuit. Only Russell Ingall comes close in the history of the events that we've had here. They were 5 apiece coming into this one, but now Skate leads 6-5. He's on track to go all the way. Boy, Marcus Ambrose is showing a lot of pace, and not surprisingly, the Holden Racing team are showing a lot of happiness down there. So Skate, Ambrose and Jason Bright made up the podium on the Shell Helix race score. Garth Tander, Paul Radicic, a good result for him. Greg Murphy ended up in 6th. The top 10 was rounded out by John Bow. Simon Wills in 11th, Paul Wheeler for Team Brock down there in 12th. Look at Cameron McConville right down the bottom of your page in 23rd. The poor bloke had dramas in qualifying. He had a little fire on board the cockpit, got 5 minutes worth of qualifying. And then, as I said, had to avert everything. But Russell Ingall was the story of the day with Greg Murphy, and with more on that is Greg Rust.
Matthew, a hearing was conducted straight after that race 1 incident, and in fact stewards reconvened first thing this morning. Now they found a lack of evidence to suggest that either driver had moved. Stephen Ellery was called in to table additional evidence, so too was Craig Lowndes, and Lowndes in fact is adamant that Russell did not deviate from his line and that more could have been done to prevent that incident. Boy, oh boy, the clash of the two competitive personalities, both Russell and Greg Murphy. It's not the first time it's happened this year. It happened at the Adelaide 500. Russell stripped of a podium, but Murphy finds himself at the centre of controversy again. The wash-up is that Murphy will start from position 6. Russell off the back of the grid as we get set to go racing. Darryl?
Thanks, Greg. Well, yesterday's sprint race was short in comparison to today's 2 100-kilometre events. This morning in the warm-up, the teams chased that last-minute vital adjustment that's going to do everything for rear tyre life today. Skate's team HRT ran a 50-pound lighter rear spring, which was no good to him in the end. Ambrose's team ran roll centre adjustments. That was better to them. Stephen Richards found extra speed out of that car this morning in the warm-up, which was good. But the biggest difference is, it's all as it takes now is the difference of 1 click heel there on the shocks between Ambrose and Skate, and that's the difference for a victory.
Thank you, Darryl. The roar is building up. Let's take a break. We'll be back with race 2 here at Hidden Valley right after this. That's the warm-up lap you're looking at. Let's take a look at the 33 starters in order of appearance on the grid. You already know that Mark Skate had pole position, qualified first, and obviously finished race 1 first. So the order remains the same there with Skate versus Ambrose on the front. From position 5, it's a good run for Paul Radicic,
who had his best qualifying performance this weekend, finished up 8th in the shootout, and I think he'll be a contender today.
Stephen Ellery very happy to be inside the top 10 after missing the shootout by 5/100ths of a second.
And Stephen Richards with a brand new VY Commodore, very fast in early practice, put brand new tyres on in qualifying. The car had a lot of understeer, but they've learned a lot more about that vehicle going into this race.
Paul Wheel in position number 12. 13 will be Stephen Johnson. They've tried to get the chassis balance working on the Shell Helix Racing. He put in a good performance. He made up ground from 22nd up to 13th. And remember, yesterday's race was all over in a flash. It was only 17 laps, but by the time they had the trouble throughout the first turn, they only pretty much got in about 13 laps under race conditions. Jason Bargwanna is also fighting hard in the AU Falcon for Orcon Racing. Rodney Forbes will have a teammate again this weekend from 00 Motorsport. Greg Ritter will be racing this weekend. Cameron McConville will start from 23. Down towards the back of the grid, Mark Larkham, Paul Dumbrell, Craig Lowndes from 28.
Lowndes had some damage yesterday and he had to pit Ritters down there as well. Max Wilson, a bent steering arm. Glenn Seaton popped a belt off and cooked an engine. Paul Morris with a bent steering arm as well. Then Russell Ingall. Now, an interesting fact about Russell Ingall is that he flat spotted all 4 tyres in that incident yesterday, which means that today he's got to operate on a smaller pool of tyres. In fact, they've drafted in some of their older tyres from practice, and that's team boss Ross Stone, and that will seriously compromise his performance through the course of the 200k races today.
Take a look at Jeff Gregg. The general in more ways than one. He positions himself right in line with the front of Mark Skate's car to make sure that he's got every single millimetre. The start here is crucial. I can't tell you how crucial this is, because Marcus Ambrose said straight away after finishing 2nd in the shootout, he has to get Skate off the starting grid. Greg Murphy made it clear that he reckons he could round them all up by turn 1. And what you've also got to remember is that you're looking at one of the longest main straightaways that we've got in the 13 rounds of the championship. 1.1 kilometre. There's plenty of room to make a move. Look at Skate starting on pole. He's won here twice, in 2000 and 2002. Ambrose split him in 2001. Russell Ingall was the inaugural winner back in 1998. And Jason Bright is the other winner in 99. We've got a green flag. We're good to go for the second race of this three-race event here at Hidden Valley. Oh, it's pretty even between Scaife and Ambrose. The charge is on down to turn one. Look at him zipping away from us, and it appears as though Scaife will hold on and lead the way into turn one, but Jason Bright, and look at Greg Murphy climbing all over him as well. Sorry, that's Garth Tander. Good start from both front rows of the grid, positions 1 through to 4.
Lowndes looking to make a run around the outside from down the back there as well. Tander, a little bit of dust on the exit of turn one. But a very good start for Mark Scaife. Track position is king at this raceway. This is often where there's a problem in the opening lap because of the intensity of the traffic here into turn 4. Up into the valley for the first time. This is turn 5, 65 kilometres per hour. Ambrose is running with Scaife. Oh, a bit of drama here in the pack as one of the Team Dynamic cars turns Bradley Jones around Jason Richards. That started about 40 or 50 metres earlier than that. One of the Shell cars took an opportunity to go through on the inside while that was all unfolding. And that further delays some of the key players at the back of the pack here.
You go back to 2002 and you'll probably remember the massive crash that we had, as Neil mentioned, on that turn, the lead into turn 4. There was 7 cars wiped out in one straight flash, but the flash at the moment past the start-finish line is all red. Mark Scaife, Marcus Ambrose.
A 1 minute 19.5 standing lap time for Scaife as Murphy takes a look on the inside of Tander. Cleaner start to activities by comparison with yesterday's first event, and 2 cars in with damage already. Richards, obviously, we know why that is, and Stephen Johnson, car 17, tangled up in all that as well.
Stephen Johnson qualified.
Left rear tyre is damaged. In fact, I think it's completely ripped apart on that car. Yes, it is.
Qualified 22nd, and as I mentioned at the top, fought his way through to finishing 13th. Saw him last night. He was looking pretty relaxed, and they were kind of happy that they had found a few of the answers that they were looking for. Here's back to the mess at turn 5 involving Jason Richards, and in the end, as probably mentioned, it started sort of 40, 50 metres back to where the impact happened, and Bradley Jones is left facing the wrong way. What about this? Russell Ingall has moved up 8 positions in his first lap. So Ingall up to 25 after starting from 33. Lap 2 is now down. That means the pit window is officially open. A 109.7125 for Mark Scaife.
That's good pace. Quicker pace in the opening stages of this race by comparison with the first event yesterday. Greg?
Kim Jones has been on the radio talking to his brother Neil. They're a little bit concerned about the Aussie Mail Ford wandering around on its tyres at the moment. He can't see. Brad reckons he won't be able to see any visible evidence of that. Kim's looking over the pit wall at the moment. Stephen Johnson's left rear tyre had a lot of damage to the rim. He's not sure who hit him.
Well, the Aussie Mail car will no doubt have damage to suspension somewhere as a result of that contact with Jason Richards, so they may have an alignment issue. Bernard runs wide at 4. We saw Stephen Ellery out in the boonies down at turn 1. And Craig Lowndes has got the rear bumper assembly hanging off the back of the Cat car. Look at the chaos there. 3 cars wide up into turn 5 at the Valley. Anthony Tratt hangs the tail on the exit. Ingall continues to blast his way through this pack at the moment.
This will be Stephen Ellery in the Super Cheap Auto Ford, a victim at turn 1. Been working on suspension, set up. Marcus Ambrose has snuck past Mark Scaife. Must have happened on the exit of turn 10. They knew that they had plenty of grunt going down the main straight, the Pertec boys, and it appears as though that has come to the fore right now, and Marcus Ambrose has gone to the front as a result. Some action in pit lane. Looks like one of the Team Brock cars.
Bowes in as well.
That's Paul Wheel, and Todd Kelly goes in. The tyre change.
Look at this, 9.3 for Ambrose. Ambrose at the top of the chart there, so that's a heck of a lap time from him. Very quick, a little bit cooler than the hotter temperatures yesterday afternoon's event.
What an amazing performance from Marcus Ambrose. If you judged on what happened in race 1, the highlights that we showed you yesterday, we said, can't tell you how crucial that start was. But Marcus Ambrose has got him somewhere. And this will be it. So
he's missed a gear.
First and second. Scaife,
he's missed a gear. It's a real awkward gear change there from second to third. That had me puzzled. That's the explanation. 9.3 for Ambrose, 9.7 the last lap for Bright. The other thing about a big rev like that is that it's possible that you can have overhead damage in the engine. It'll be a big one at that spot. That means that Mark has sacrificed track position, Darryl. One of the other issues that was raised after the last event at Barbagallo Raceway was right of way for those that were leaving their service bay area and joining the fast lane again. The ruling is from the race director that if you are leaving your pit lane and you've been released by the car controller, then right of way is adjudged to have been given to the car in the fast lane, and you must yield. You cannot parallel down the inside of that lane. In other words, you can't make a two abreast chain down there. Rusty?
Well, Neil, just to add to what you're saying there, it's been bedlam at this early stage in pit lane, and it's amazing to watch everyone do that, to follow the race director's comments and stick out. Basically, Russell Ingall came in mid-pack, but he had to join at the end of the queue, giving way to everyone. Now, Marcus Ambrose is in.
So Ambrose now comes in. Remember, Scaife's already been in. The boys are there, Darryl.
Everyone's had pretty good stops. They are actually having a little bit of a play with that roll center. It'll look like about a quarter of a turn, and he's out. Good stop.
Like it was very efficient. So not only efficient from the point of view of changing rubber, but also an opportunity to just trim the car. Leaves Jason Bright as the leader.